friend, thought to give you another update on the wintry weather we expect to come in a little bit later on today. Here is the alert map. Again, most of the states under a winter weather advisory, where we're probably going to see a couple to maybe 4 or 5 inches of snow. It's enough to be an inconvenience. It's not a blockbuster storm when it's at that level, but it is enough that roadways do get covered with snow, and that can slow you down and, of course, make it difficult to travel, and that it gets slippery, and we certainly don't want people to go into unsafe conditions. You don't need a lot of snow to make roads treacherous, and so it looks like that's what we're going to get, just enough to cause some trouble. Across northwestern Litchfield County, that's where the assumption is that we get a little bit more snow, and as a result, there's a winter storm warning, somewhat of a higher grade of an alert across far northwestern Connecticut. So it's looking like we're still on target for that. We're just going to keep our eyes on this. I'm going to switch the maps over to the satellite and radar first so that you can see what we've got going on in terms of the storm in its larger scale. We do have this area of low pressure gliding along and into the western Great Lakes now. And you can see in the blue, where we have that blue color, that is mainly snow. So this is snow here, the northern expanse of it. Then there's only a very little area of pink where there's a mix, and then it goes to plain rain. So that seems to be the general trend on this one. It's either snow or rain, but there isn't a lot of a mix with this one. At least that's what the models have been showing too, that it would be a fairly swift switch over. Which, you know, when you factor in that it's been so cold over the last 12 hours, I kind of wonder if we might have the opportunity for a little bit more mixed precipitation when we do see a transition. And we are going to see a transition from snow to rain. But how much do we get that freezing rain, sleet in between? That's one of the questions we've got in the back of our minds. So let's time this out again. This is our Futurecast Tomorrow's Weather Today. It does show a few flurries may come in during the very early part of the afternoon. This is just updated, so this is new data, and you and I are kind of seeing it together for the first time. I haven't looked at it yet. So, and then as we go towards 2, 3 o'clock, you can see how still the models are saying that we will see snow into western Connecticut. Though, when I say that, and you look at this output for 3 o'clock, this has the snow essentially west of Hartford. Other model runs had some of the snow coming up pretty close to the Hartford or into the Hartford area by 3 o'clock. Now it's saying, well, maybe we'll wait a little bit longer. I don't know. I'm looking at the radar right now, and I'm already seeing some returns just to the west of the Hudson Valley. So this may be just a touch late. The returns that I'm looking at in the Hudson Valley, and now let me switch this over to early morning pinpoint Doppler so I can show you what I mean. And let me switch the source on this. Hold on a second. Just give me a sec. I gotta go away from the microphone. So let's see. Okay, so I've just switched this over to one of the other sources with the radars, and you can see how with our early warning pinpoint Doppler, we are seeing some snow showers in through the Catskills of New York State. So that might suggest that at least we could see some flurries a little bit later on this morning or into the afternoon. But when you look at where the bulk of the snow is right now, you could see the bulk of the accumulating snow is still out over western Pennsylvania and central Pennsylvania. And the models have consistently said there's going to be sort of a dying off and reconstitution of what's going on in terms of snow. So that might mean that a delay to the early afternoon is likely. But again, I tend to wonder if we have to wait until 3 o'clock before we start to see snow in the Hartford area, or 4 o'clock, I should say. We'll have to see, but I think it might be a little bit late. As we look towards 4 or 5 o'clock, though, we should see snow across the whole state, and we're seeing widespread snow at 6, 7 o'clock. Once we get into 8 o'clock and beyond, that's when the warmer air is going to be impinging into the snow, and you'll see by around 9:30 and 10 o'clock, we'll start to see the snow change over to rain, even in Hartford. Notice what happens is that we don't have a lot of pink on this map. And what that is the model saying, yep, we are going to see a pretty swift change from snow to rain without a whole lot of opportunity to actually have there be mixed precipitation. which is possible. If the temperature gets up to 33 or 34 degrees here near the surface, we just will not have frozen precipitation like you would expect. If it stays at 31, well, that's a different story. And so I wouldn't be surprised if there is a little bit more of a prolonged period of maybe a little bit of glazing or a little bit of sleet as the transition's occurring, especially in some of the hill locations, because cold air is just going to stay a little bit. It's hard to scour it out, and I just think that just my gut says that we might have a little bit longer period where we'll be transitioning from the snow to rain with a little bit of an icy mix. But long and short of it is that once we get to about midnight and beyond, most of what we'll see will be in the form of rain showers, and at the same time, they're going to be scooting away. So you see, as we get into the morning hours tomorrow, it just clears out nicely, and it's done. So we will have had snow and we will have had rain, and the question is how much of each. And one thing we didn't look at all this morning is how much rain we might get. This is the amount of liquid that we have the opportunity to see out of the storm, and an upwards of a half inch, especially across southeastern Connecticut, will be possible. Then how much snow are we going to get? Well, we can look at several models to get a sense of that. Let's see if I can find here is the GFS. This is one of the medium range models that we often look at. And the latest model run here, has, actually a fairly good depiction. This is pretty close to what we're thinking. 1 inch maybe across southeastern Connecticut, maybe 1 to 3 for a good chunk of southeastern Connecticut, to include much of New London County. Then as we look towards most of the central part of the state, including New Haven, including Hartford, including the whole I-84 corridor, that's where we might see more in the way of 2 to 5 inches of snow. And then when you look across northwestern Connecticut, that's where this model has it at 4+. And we're kind of close to that. We're saying maybe 5+ up in that general area. So this model is fairly close to what we're thinking. Let's see if the European has updated since we last talked. It really hasn't. It has the same numbers on it, but just not in the same spot. You could see here how the European actually says western Connecticut will be favored, but even near the coast, you'll see here that there could be some 4+ values here in northern Fairfield and New Haven counties, and that certainly is possible. And then it also has some of the equally high values here across northwestern Connecticut. What it does is it holds off and says that northeastern Connecticut's probably not going to see quite as much. So I would say that it is possible to see those 4-inch totals as far south as this is showing, because very often we get that surprise that areas just to the northwest of New Haven get sort of walloped a little bit more than what we forecast, because it does tend to, you don't have as much of warming off that part of the sound, because there just isn't as much of it, and you don't have as much of an influence off the waters of the Atlantic, so you don't get as much warming as early. So sometimes there's a little bit more in the way of snow that can accumulate in the western side of southern Connecticut. But nonetheless, this isn't exactly showing the same thing as the GFS, but I just thought I'd show it to you and show you what it's depicting. Again, that's the European model. So what we're going with is this. This is the map we've been showing essentially all morning long. A lot of the state in a 2 to 5 inch range, and that would include all of I-84, most of Route 2 until you get just to the south and to the east of Colchester. It would include Willimantic and also Danielson. It would include the Naugatuck Valley. It would include New Haven and Wallingford and Cheshire. It would include Middletown too, as well as New Britain. The Farmington Valley would be in on this, as well as Enfield. And then over towards Danbury, Newtown, you'd also be in the 2 to 5 inch range. Who would be in the 5+ inch range would be anywhere from Sharon northward and Heartland westward, New Hartford westward, probably Torrington north and west be in the 5 inch plus range, according to what we're thinking right now. So that's with snow. So we've covered the snow and the rain. The one other thing that I was just curious about was the amount of icing we might get. So I was looking at the icing product that we have in-house, and that's really not showing much of anything at all, because as you saw, the model output is such that it's just saying, nope, we're just not going to see much in the way of any sleet or freezing rain. And so without that, you're not going to get as much of the accumulation of the ice. As I've been babbling on, I've been trying to find that product, but I was working with it, and then I somehow have lost it. So as I'm talking, I can't really find it, so I won't waste your time with that. I think I'm just going to go to see if anybody has any questions. I'll leave this map up, though, so you can kind of peruse it and get an idea of what we're saying here just by looking at it pictorially here. Sid is asking, what time do you think the snow will start in Torrington? Well, the Futurecast had the snow probably in the Torrington area, maybe 1:30 to 3, somewhere in that range. You might see the snow starting to fall in Torrington. You might have a flurry or a snow shower earlier, but in terms of the accumulating snow and its beginning, maybe sometime in the 1:30 to 3 time frame is what I think we were looking at. There's some people who don't want snow. Let's see, Tim says he has a Sweet 16 tonight from 5 to 9 in North Grosvenordale. In that area, you are definitely in the 2 to 5 inch range. Let's see, from 5 to 9, the snow will probably be starting as the party's starting, and it will be snowing when it finishes in Thompson. So that's the way I think we're going to see that one. Let's see if anybody else has any questions. Michael Swanson is asking about the forecast for Rhode Island. Well, I think you can deduce from this map, it depends on where in Rhode Island you are. I would say the South County is probably going to be in the 1 to 3 inch range. You might get less than an inch if you're on any of the islands like Newport. But if you are north and west of Providence, if you're up in the highlands of Foster, for instance, or Burrillville, you're probably going to be more in the 2 to 5 inch range, especially north and west of 295. I hope that helps. Let's see. Rose is saying hello. I want to say hello to you. Good morning from Carol. I want to say good morning to you as well. Let's see if anybody else has any questions. Let's see. Going to be a messy day for plow drivers with the snow and then the rain. Yeah, it'll be sloppy. What would be nice is if you got the snow and then it was plain rain. You remove the snow, the plain rain, it will just do its thing. And you know, one of the interesting things that I learned is that snow has a tendency to melt faster when the air temperature is close but above freezing than it does when the air temperature is like 50 or 60 degrees. And that's because what happens is that the rainwater will go into the snow and refreeze in the snow, and that actually emits heat and helps to melt snow faster, which I thought was an interesting kind of fact. All right, I think I'm going to leave it there. And what we'll do is we're going to be doing these Facebook Lives every hour today just to keep you updated on this. Again, it's not a blockbuster storm, but it's enough that with enough snow on the ground, you just have the collection of the snow on the roadways, and it just takes longer to get places. It's not as safe to be on the roads because it's slippery. And you'll probably have some chore of some kind to remove snow somehow by the time this is done. So that's why we're giving you a little bit of an extra attention on this one. All right, so we'll leave it there. We'll see you in about an hour. See you guys.